They knew the moment they stepped through those tall, polished gates that life at Rosewood Hills Academy would be different, but they didn't expect it to feel like walking straight into a storm. Jada and Janelle Rivers were new, yes, and twins, but it wasn't that. It was the color of their skin. The way their presence alone seemed to ripple through the school like a warning. They felt the stares, the whispers, the cold judgment dressed up as curiosity. Rosewood was all bricks, statues, and shining floors, a place where old money whispered from every wall. And it was clear the school had not been built with girls like them in mind. Their father had warned them. Derek Rivers never sugar-coated the truth. He had raised them to walk tall, to carry themselves with pride, and, if needed, to defend themselves, not just with words, but with hands trained in discipline. Both girls were black belts, taught never to bow to hate. But even with all of his wisdom, even with years of strength behind their steps, nothing could prepare them for what waited inside those walls. Ryan Mallory was the kind of boy who had never heard the word no and never faced consequences. Surrounded by his gang of sneering friends, he made it his mission to break them. It started small. Insults whispered just loud enough to sting. Books knocked from their hands, shoulders bumped in passing. The school staff looked away. The students followed Ryan's lead. And Jada and Janelle? They stayed silent, calm. But each day, the fire in their chests burned hotter. Then came the morning when their lockers were covered in hateful slurs, drawn in red paint like blood across cold metal. Ugly cartoons. Words meant to dehumanize them. The hallway filled with laughter, phones out, students recording what they thought was another joke. But Jada and Janelle stood still, faces unreadable, hearts roaring. That night at home, they didn't need to explain much. Their father saw the weight in their eyes. He said one thing, his voice like steel. If they won't stop, he told them, then they'll learn you're not the ones who break. And just like that, the decision was made. Quiet, final. The next day, Ryan tried to go further. He and his boys waited in the courtyard, smug as ever. As Jada and Janelle walked past, Ryan spat out another cruel insult. But this time, Jada turned. Her voice was calm, but her eyes said it all. "If you thought we'd stay home," she told him, "you're more pathetic than I thought." The crowd shifted. Whispers turned sharp. Ryan, caught off guard, stepped forward. "You've got a lot of nerve, talking like you belong here." Janelle didn't flinch. "We do more than you ever will." That was enough. Ryan's hand lashed out, shoving Jada. Brent knocked Janelle's books from her arms. Zach shoved her, sneering, and then it happened. Jada planted her feet. One sharp strike to Ryan's chest sent him stumbling back. Janelle swept Brent's legs from under him with perfect precision. The crowd gasped. Phones dropped. Everything changed. Ryan came charging back with a wild swing. Jada ducked low and landed a punch to his ribs that stole the air from his lungs. Zach rushed Janelle with a broken stick, but she disarmed him in seconds and dropped him with a clean elbow to the jaw. They didn't fight with anger, they fought with purpose. Years of training flowed through their muscles. Their father's lessons moved through every block and counter. They didn't swing wildly. They didn't act out of rage. They defended themselves, and they didn't miss. Ryan and his crew lay on the ground, gasping for breath, their smirks long gone. The students, once eager to laugh, now stood frozen, eyes wide, mouths shut. For the first time, everyone saw the truth. Jada and Janelle were never weak. They were warriors, and they had been pushed too far. When the assistant principal finally arrived, late, too late, and tried to lie, they were attacked.
Jada's voice cut clean through the noise. They've been targeting us since day one. Today we defended ourselves. Nothing more. Suspensions were handed out, of course. Not justice, just silence. But the fight wasn't over. That afternoon, Derek sat at the kitchen table. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "They'll come here," he said. "People like that don't lose quietly." And he was right. That evening, a black car pulled up outside. Doors slammed. Expensive heels clicked against the sidewalk. Ryan's parents, Sandra and Greg Mallory, stood on their porch, faces twisted with entitlement and fury. "You think you can lay hands on our son and walk away?" Sandra hissed. Derek opened the door before they could knock, calm, grounded. "Your son attacked my daughters," he said. "They defended themselves. That's the truth."
Greg lunged, a wild punch meant to knock Derek down. But Derek moved like water, catching his wrist mid-swing, twisting gently, letting him stumble to the ground. Sandra tried to strike him too. Derek blocked her, held her firm. "You brought this to my door," he said quietly, "but fear doesn't live here." They kept coming. Greg again. Derek turned his momentum and slammed him into the porch rail. Sandra screamed. The neighbors stepped outside. Phones came out. The police sirens followed. When Officer Gleason arrived, Sandra screamed about assault, about arrest. But Derek just stood tall. "They came to my home," he said. "They threw the first punch. I defended my family." And then the truth began to rise. One neighbor spoke up, then another, then another. Every story matched. Every voice said the same thing. The Mallorys started it. Derek ended it. Back at the station, surveillance footage confirmed it all. Security cameras at school, video of the prank, footage of the hallway bullying. It was all there. Ryan, Zach, Brent, every shove, every slur. Charges were dropped against Jada, Janelle, and Derek. The Mallorys? They were the ones in cuffs now. And when Rosewood Hills got the report, the school couldn't pretend anymore. Ryan, Zach, and Brent were expelled. Jada and Janelle's suspension was rescinded. They returned to school not just as students, but as a message. That strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it walks in quietly, side by side. And when it's pushed too far, it stands tall and answers. So if you've ever felt like the world was watching, waiting for you to break, remember this: you don't fold, you stand. If this story moved you, make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got more stories just like this one right here on Unfolded.